Thank you for coming and joining me today. It's a real honour to be here. Actually, I've been a visitor to the photography and video show for quite a number of years now, so it's really great to be here running a masterclass for you this morning. My name's Emma Alexander. I'm the founder of Mother Brand, and I want to talk about resilience, which is a pretty hefty and meaty topic. So we're going to look at two things in particular: how to maintain inspiration and overcome isolation when you're working from home. Little introduction to me. My name's Emma Alexander. I'm the founder of Mother Brand, a photography production company, and we work predominantly with independent or unsigned creatives in the commercial advertising sector. And as well as production support, Mother Brand offers consultancy and mentoring. And it was actually this work that brought me here today. Last year, I started to see patterns in my consultancy clients and other creatives that I was talking to. Really successful independent photographers and creatives who were experiencing feelings of a complete lack of motivation, a complete lack of drive, a creative lethargy, if you will, and a kind of overwhelming sense of being sort of stuck in a rut. And while, executionally, they were working collaboratively, the common thread, when we unpicked it between them all, was this mostly solitary working environment. And then halfway through this work, the penny dropped for me. This feeling didn't just resonate with me, because I'm a consultant, I've seen it time and time again. It resonated with me because I was feeling everything that they were. And it's not because I'm a creative, I'm a producer. I'm a spreadsheets, numbers and kind of logistics kind of gal. It was because I was a solo founder running my own business. I have a team of freelancers that all work remotely. I work executionally, with other people on shoots, but I spend a majority of my working time actually on my own. So I want to share with you this quote. You are the axis on which everything sits, the good, the bad, and the terrifying. This is actually about solo founders of startups, but I think it's really applicable to freelance creatives. And you've got to remember, we are businesses as well. When you work on your own, you are the axis on which everything sits, the good, the amazing, the bad, and the terrifying. And that can feel like such a phenomenal amount of pressure sometimes. So I started to really look at my own resilience, and how I could develop tools, not just for my career, my career growth, but actually my career survival. And, throughout lockdown, we've all been forced to work from home. We've all been literally isolated for each other. So this work feels more relevant than ever. And I want to share with you today 7 steps for building your own resilience in this crazy, unprecedented landscape and beyond. So first of all, what is resilience? Why is it even relevant? Well, resilience by definition is the ability to bounce back from situations. It's a kind of toughness, if you will. But I don't think I actually want to bounce back. After hitting a roadblock or a problem, I want to bounce forward. As cheesy as that sounds, I don't want to return to the place I was before that issue. I want to learn from it and I want to move on. So I don't want to be hard and tough. I want to be strong. So my definition of resilience, my personal definition, isn't about put up and shut up kind of mentality. It's about identifying problems or rocky periods, being able to, calmly solve them, to unpick them, and then move on. And that ability comes, when you feel good, when you feel safe, when you feel supported, which, as we've just said, when you're the axis on which everything sits, actually can be really difficult when you are working alone. So my number one tip for you is going to be to acknowledge your feelings. Now, this might sound a bit fluffy. Stay with me. It also might sound really obvious. We know it's okay to not be okay, but do we really allow ourselves to not feel okay? Isolation can manifest itself, in a range of different emotions. So do we always give ourselves the space to feel these? a few months ago, I was talking to a psychologist, and she told me about what's called the big 5 factors of personality. And of these 5 factors, there is one that has the biggest variable. And interestingly, it was found this factor, the biggest variable, was optimism. I think we tend to think of optimism as being quite concrete. Are you an optimist or are you a pessimist? Like it's a solid state, like it's set in stone. But our ability, to see positive outcomes or to be excited about what we do, it's going to vary on a day-to-day basis depending on what external forces, are at play as we go. So my number one takeout from all of this is to acknowledge your feelings and know and understand that it is okay to not feel okay. My number 2 is to find your baseline. So there's no, one size fits all when it comes to human behavior or emotions, and everyone's going to experience things slightly differently. So you need to know what your emotional baseline is. Again, this might sound fluffy. Bear with me. This is where it stops. But, how can you know that things are amiss if you don't know what your own normal is? Like a control, group in a science experiment at school. You need to understand what your patterns are in order to be able to catch when things are changing. So when my husband was having a tough time at work and my son was studying every day saying, I don't want to go to school, we decided to make a sentiment chart. So at the end of every day over dinner, we would ask each member of the family how our day was. And we put a green smiley face, a kind of orange face, or a red sad face on a chart. And after a couple of weeks, we could really see where the patterns were for different members of the family. And then, we could try and take steps to try and prevent the downtimes. But it only works with data. Like, data is king. And interestingly, importantly, we were all different. So baseline is really essentially just taking stock of how you feel at different times. And that's it. And you can start today. In fact, start today. Take 30 seconds at the end of the day to scan your body and just notice how you feel. And I'm not talking about guided meditation, breathing exercises, affirmations, anything complicated. It is in its simplest form, just acknowledging. And in terms of how you measure it, you might want to go into bullet journaling, or, it might be reflected in how far you do or you don't run at the gym, or whatever it is. It might be smiley faces on the calendar. It doesn't matter. But start making a document. Start documenting how you feel. The purpose is to try and understand your working patterns, when you're most alert, when you're most driven and productive, and what your normal peaks and troughs are through the day, through the week, through the month. So you have this emotional baseline in your mind of what your normal variations in mood are, and you can really pinpoint when you start to feel that change, whether that's isolation or creative lethargy, whatever it is. It's not complicated, it's just acknowledging how you feel. So number 3 is community. The majority of people will thrive when they're a part of a community. So without wanting to sound, all millennial, where are your tribe? Who are your people? And don't just limit yourself to, your industry or your discipline. Your tribe are your people who share your values and your ethics. So are there areas in outside your professional life that you need to satisfy? I'm part of a handful of communities, both online and in real life, and they all serve slightly different purposes. So I'm part of a couple of women's business groups, for example. One is very kind of emotionally supportive, the other is very guarded, but absolutely brilliant for on point, brutal sometimes, professional advice. I have groups that are very niche for my industry, for production, for the creative industry, and one that's really good for SME and micro businesses. But communities are still a relationship. Okay, so you only really work when you put in. And I'm not diehard about any of the groups that I'm part of. I dip in and out. But one of the things I do love about these groups is the sharing of knowledge. And I really think being able to help others, it's not just rewarding. It's not just about giving you a sense of purpose and validation. It actually, gives you a really good hit of serotonin and dopamine when you help other people. So all of those obviously boost your mood. They can counteract the stress hormone cortisol, So taking the time to, I think, to dip into different networks, maybe it's once a week, maybe it's once a month, it can really help you on a chemical level as well as that kind of emotional level. And I've actually gone on to work with some people from these groups. It's not about, it's not about doing the hard sell. It was about giving and feeling connected. And that led to a really lovely relationship, which led to us working together. So when you're spending long periods of time on your own, it's really about finding that balance that works for you. It's important to have some face-to-face contact with other people through events, through meetups, through, client meetings, but knowing you have a network who have your back, emotionally and professionally, through advice, and then one you can find, gratification from actually contributing to, can really help you feel supported. Point number 4, be accountable. If you're struggling with motivation or these feelings of isolation, even sometimes having a mentor or accountability partner can really help. It can make a profound difference, not just for your mental health, but also to your business health as well. So according to research published by the Federation of Small Businesses, 70% of entrepreneurs with mentors survive for, more than 5 years in business. And I think these statistics are really quite powerful. Now, obviously, we're not, necessarily identify as entrepreneurs, but remember, freelancers are still a business. You are still a small business, and you should think about yourself like that. So, if 70% of people with mentors, survive the long haul, think about what this could do for you. But if you're not ready for a mentor, an accountability partner might be a bit more up your street. Now, body systems are used in everything from like sports training to rehab, and for really good reason. When you're accountable to someone, you show up, you step up. It's like being at school, which probably won't have, great memories for everybody, but it eliminates this feeling of going through something alone. If you have a regular check-in with someone, you have a time limit on that work. You have a reason to prioritize those tasks that you've promised to do. So an accountability partner is like a part cheerleader, part coach, part scary headmaster. But there's no hard and fast rules. It's a really fluid arrangement. It's an arrangement based on trust. You need to commit to your own development, but also to supporting someone else in their growth. And that's really important. So you're looking for someone who's on the same path as you, not necessarily in your sector, or discipline, but someone who is on a similar path in terms of their goals, their business approach, and their values again. I generally advise against using friends. I think you need to be really objective and not have this fear of kind of hurting somebody, clouding your judgment. To find an accountability partner, this is the question that everyone else asks me, there are actually some sites that will pay with people, but I always say look inside your own network first, put it out there in your own network and see who is around and who is looking for kind of support. Alternatively, there are these couple of websites. I haven't used these, but I have had some feedback. They've been quite helpful. Alternatively, there are accountability groups. I actually ran a beta test of one of these in the summer, and it's something I'll be rolling out later this year. Actual groups, short sprints of 2 weeks where you work together as a small group to really keep each other on track. It could be a really quick, powerful thing for when you need to get tasks done. In contrast, a mentor is usually someone who's much more experienced, advisor. I cannot advocate mentorship enough. Like, get a mentor, be a mentor is completely my mantra. I have 5 different mentors I work with across the creative spectrum. Some I meet really regularly with, some are a handful of times a year. But I get a massive pleasure, or maybe it's that serotonin, from helping them driving their own careers. I find it really rewarding, and actually through helping them work through their issues, it actually helps me to see my own business from a third-person point of view, to look at my own work objectively. And my definition of a mentor is this: a mentor doesn't provide the answers. A mentor should provide the space in which to work through the questions That's really important. You are doing the work here, but they are guiding you through. So when you're looking for a mentor, you should have a really specific question in mind. You should know why you want one. Okay, you're looking for an expert. You're not looking for a generalist. If you're thinking about moving into, motion, you're still a photographer, you want to move into motion, find someone who has done this really successfully. You don't want someone with general advice. You want someone who really knows their stuff. And these people are, likely very, very busy. So actually you want to come with, 1 to 3 really specific questions and a very clear agenda of what you're asking from them. And finally, I think this is a really important point. Ask what you can give back. Be prepared to bring something to the table. And that might be as simple as offering, a diverse perspective. But it's really important to acknowledge that if you're asking for this time for free, that you give something in return. So to find these mythical beasts, again, I think you start inside your own network. Who are the inspirational people in your current network? I actually think LinkedIn is pretty good for that. You can see those degrees of separation and, and approach somebody. Again, mentoring groups do exist. I've never used one. I've yet to find one that doesn't look really cheesy. But if anyone has used a kind of group creative mentoring group before, I'm really curious, to know how that went and hear your experiences. But if you want to take it one step further, you could look at creating your own personal board of advisors. Okay, this is a way of kind of balancing your psychosocial and your career support. This is something I learned during a workshop with a guy called Dr. David Slocum from the Berlin School of Creative Leadership. And essentially, he says, you're looking to identify the various sources of support that already exist in your life. That'll be people from, everyone from, people you speak to every day. That's like your family, your close friends, all the way through to, former colleagues, bosses, business coaches, mentors, to who you might only have contact with once a month or quarterly or yearly, all the way through to role models who, people you might never meet, but still inspire you all the same. And it's acknowledging and formalizing who guides and advises you in both a non-work, the psychosocial kind of capacity, all the way through to the really career-focused advice, and again, those inspirational role models. So it's important to understand here that the balance. You need those cheerleaders, those people who love you unconditionally, but you also need to understand where to take really specific problems. So let's be honest, my mum is always going to think what I do is amazing, even when it's not. Like, that's her job. But she doesn't understand the landscape of my business, But equally, those closest to you, my mum, my partner, they actually might be your greatest hindrance when it comes to growth or pivoting or evaluating risk, precisely because they care about you. So just like we discussed with community, it's really important to understand kind of who your go-to people are and for what purpose. Where do you take specific questions to get really well-rounded advice? So think about who might fulfill all these different categories here and what's missing. Do you need to reach out to someone and say, I'm assembling a group of advisors to support me over the next 6 months. Would you like to discuss being a part of that? That's as simple as it needs to be. Do you want to formalize the relationship with someone in particular in order to make sure you're getting the most from them? You're getting really objective advice from them, and also to let them know that you really value their opinion and their experience. Maybe you need to reach out to someone and say, I'd love you to sit on this sort of semi-board of advisors with me because I really respect you. And it can feel really daunting doing that. I think you just got to bite the bullet, swallow that doubt, and put it out there. So point number 5, welcome change. I know they say change is as good as a holiday, unless it's clients changing their mind. But I'm not going to get into that. I think I said I wasn't going to venture into this whole idea about productivity, but I think it's actually really important to acknowledge that while routine and structure can be really healthy and really helpful when you're running a business predominantly on your own or remotely, or from home, I think your ability to change equally is your superpower. And what I mean by this is, once you've established your mental baseline, we talked about at the beginning, as soon as you feel that slipping out of alignment, if you feel disconnected, if you feel, you know, that you need to be inspired again, that you make a change. You take steps immediately to make a change. And this might be as simple as, you know, a change of working environment. I have 2 different co-working spaces I use, you know, and a home office. I move between them depending on the kind of work I need to get done, my mental state, you know, and my need to be around other people. So in terms of maintaining your inspiration and the love or the drive for your business, change is going to be a really important tool in terms of your product, your process, and your PR. Like being a solo creative is your superpower. Your ability to be nimble, you know, your ability to try new things can be your greatest asset if you let it. So obviously I had to, you know, we've had to embrace change recently with the onset of COVID and lockdown. You know, all of Mother Brand's work just disappeared. And overnight, you know, I went from running a production company to running a boarding school, being the head teacher of a boarding school. But, you know, taking a step away was at once absolutely terrifying, but also really amazing. You know, at the very beginning, I had 3 weeks of like teaching timetables and, you know, finger painting the hungry caterpillar. But rather than getting bogged down in the day-to-day running of my business, it actually allowed me to step away and really gave me clarity. I literally had to get up one night and just sit up till 3 a.m. pouring out ideas. I suddenly could see where I wanted to take a business and creatively the kind of things I wanted to make, the kind of things I wanted to create. That was really powerful. And this is a quote from MailChimp, actually. PR guru Lucy Weiner shared this a few months ago, and it really resonated with me. Listen hard, change fast, and learn constantly. This is one of their internal kind of mantras. And I think this applies to both, you know, our creative processes, but also to ourselves as business owners. You know, find your baseline, listen to your body, listen to yourself, understand how you're responding to the pressures of the here and now, and change fast. You know, don't go back, bounce forward. Those things really, really hit a note with me and really sit well. So number 6, personal projects. I can't advocate enough having personal projects on the go. I really, really believe as a creative, you know, personal work helps you develop your discipline kind of outside the constraints of someone else's brief. You know, as an art buyer, as someone who commissions photographers and videographers, you know, I really want to see the real you. You know, I want to see your eye, not just a gun for hire. So, you know, I think having personal projects is a really powerful thing in your portfolio, no matter how senior, how experienced you think, you know, you are. I just think it shows a love for the craft. It shows that you, you know, absolutely love what you're doing, and that you still, you know, take the time to seek out these stories and or whatever you want, you know, you're creating. I think it's a really powerful thing. And I know that when I was working in ad agencies, I would often sit with photographers and talk about their personal work much longer, you know, than we would sit and talk about, you know, sort of commissions with really leading brands. And I think, you know, it can be in the creative realm, but I think taking time for downtime is also really important. And it doesn't need to be, you know, meditation or yoga. I think, you know, just making time for yourself, taking a time to kind of get away from all your the business side of things is actually really important, really healthy. And it doesn't have to be, you know, a side hustle. I don't think there's enough hours in a day for everyone to have a side hustle. But I do think find something, you know, you enjoy and make time for it. It might be reading, it might be running, might be macrame wall hangings, whatever floats your boat is fine. I'll show you what we've been doing during lockdown. I've been making soap with my kids. Yeah, it's me, which is quite embarrassing to admit it. Partly as a way of getting them to wash their hands. But, you know, and also we made them for various NHS collections. But, you know, it was really fun. It was really fun to make something with my hands again. It was great. It's not a side brand. Trust me, I'm not, you know, not going to start running a soap company anytime soon, but it was really great to step away and, you know, physically create something with my hands. My other thing is swimming and riding, you know, because you can't check your phone, you can't make notes, you can't draft an email. Actually, the pool is probably my only meditative space, you know, and it is where I do my best thinking. I love swimming because I just count. All I do is count, you know, count lengths. And actually, in this world of craziness and technology and constantly being barraged with information, it actually feels really good to just stop thinking for a while. So having a personal project, finding something you love that takes you away from all this. I'm not going to say, you know, self-love or me time. It's really just finding something to give you room to breathe. You know, when you can't see the wood for the trees, when you're so embedded in something, it's really impossible to look at things objectively. So guilt-free time away, finding an outlet, I think is really important for the health of your craft as well as your, you know, your mental health. And my final point, there, is to go to Vegas. This is a little tip that a psychotherapist, Andrew, unfortunately I can never say his name, shared with me. And it's about resetting your vagus nerve. It's a really cool little tip to keep up your sleeve if you are feeling stressed, overwhelmed, lacking, you know, that lacking that motivation. It's to interlace your fingers at the base of your neck, base of your skull, on top of your neck, and keeping your eyes open. You rest your head back on your hands and just look left, as far as your eyes can see left, for 30 to 60 seconds until you feel this kind of like shift, to kind of release in your body. And I think that's quite a handy little tip to just keep up your sleeve when you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed with everything. So there we go. That is it. Seven tips to kind of take you through, overcoming the feelings of isolation and keeping this real love for your craft alive. Number one, acknowledge your feelings. Allow yourself to be permissive, you know, in how you feel. Know it's okay to not feel okay. 2, find your baseline. Understand your own parameters of normal, you know, normal variations in your kind of working patterns and how you feel. 3, find your community, find your tribe, people who share your values, as well as people within your own discipline. 4, be accountable. Make yourself accountable to someone, whether that is an accountability partner, accountability group, a mentor, you know, or building this personal board of advisors to drive you through a period of change. Number 5, embracing change. So taking change on the chin, you know, seeing it, allowing it to be your superpower, and really running with that. Number 6, keep creating, find those personal projects, you know, creatively, as well as kind of personal outlets to give you time. And number 7, take yourself to Vegas if you need to. Have this little handy tip up your sleeve, trick up your sleeve that you can pull out when you're feeling really stressed. So I want to leave you with this, I think it's a really lovely quote by this theologian. Loneliness expresses the pain of being alone, and solitude expresses the glory of being alone. I think it's about mindset, how we kind of envisage it, and what we focus on when we are thinking about isolation and time on our own, and how we can make that into solitude and really take that and own it as something really wonderful. Thank you very much for your time today. It's been amazing to share this with you. This is me. By all means, please drop me a line. I'm always willing to answer questions. If you come up with something after the Q&A, by all means, you can find me at motherbrand.com. My email address is on there, or you can follow me on all the social channels on @motherbrand. Thank you very much for taking the time. If you'd like to send me some feedback or questions, that's always amazing. And I will be around for the Q&A now. Thanks so much. Take care.